This is the fastest and most efficient way to learn verb conjugations in whatever language you're learning. This is something that English speakers learning another language often struggle with because English has relatively simple grammar compared to languages like Spanish, like you see here, that I'm using as an example, but this works for any other language as well. Portuguese, Russian, whatever, any language, this will work. And yeah, verb conjugations tend to be one of the things that people struggle with. And if you do it right, you can learn it relatively easily, although you'll still make mistakes, but you'll make much fewer of them and you'll learn to speak with mostly correct conjugations relatively early on if you do it the right way. So I'm going to show you how to do it. First thing you need to know is that unless you really like to do it, unless you really like to study from grammar books, and some people, 1 out of 10 or something like that, really enjoy doing that. Those tend to be, most of the online polyglots you see tend to be people who really enjoy studying from grammar books. 90% of people hate grammar books and it doesn't work for them. So yeah, forget about grammar books. If you're watching this, you're probably not a polyglot. So if you don't like grammar books, just ditch them. You don't need them, right? Forget about exercises, forget about multiple choice and all of that. You don't need any of that, all right? So what you need is this, a list of example sentences with all the conjugations or all the main conjugations you need to learn to communicate effectively in the language. So you take the most common verbs, like to be, to have, to say, to tell, to see, to go. You get the idea. And you get an example sentence of each one of the conjugations of that specific verb. And for a language like Spanish, you'll see that there are a lot of them. Like ser is to be, ser or estar, both are to be. It can get quite confusing. And well, that's a topic for another video. But basically, the solution to that, like learning ser and estar in Spanish, is basically the same. You just need to do this for that as well. In fact, this method will work for any kind of grammar issue you have. There's a subjunctive, there's this, there's that, there's the conditionals. Whatever grammar thing that you identify that you're struggling with, this will fix it. All right? It's not just for the conjugations, it works for any kind of grammar. Just need example sentences, enough example sentences for that. All right? So you need the most basic verbs and an example sentence of each one of its forms, at least the common ones. So he has, he had, she had been, sorry. She is, it is, I am, you are, he is, we are, we have been, they are, like this, lots of that. And then, like I would have, like I have, he has, you have, I would have, you would have, they would have. You see, there's loads of just first lots of example sentences, different example sentences with to be, then to have, then another one, etc. You get the idea. And with this, what you'll need to do is basically get an audio file and start reading. And you learn this by sheer repetition, a lot of reviews of this list. And it's as simple as that. And the difference between this and you'll just learn through inputs naturally is that here you're focusing on this, and it's if you take 300 sentences, example sentences of different conjugations, that's 10 minutes of audio, and you can review those, like the same list, dozens of times in a week. So you learn the conjugations really well. You can read it. The first time you read it, try to guess the meaning, check, you get the right meaning. And you next one, you try to guess the meaning. And your brain's really good at recognizing patterns. And because the example sentences are organized in a way that you'll get them in the same order. So had been, and then at some point uh, he had, I guess, will be there somewhere. Yeah. So basically, you get them in the same order, or approximately in a similar order. So what you need to do is just read it, try to understand, check if you guessed it right or not, what the meaning was, and you read it from start to finish, maybe 2 or 3 times from start to finish. Listen while reading, and then do active recall. You read this, try to say it in Spanish, check. Read this, try to say it in Spanish, check. Read this, try to say it in Spanish, check. And obviously say it aloud correctly if you got it wrong, which you will in the beginning. And you keep doing this. And because each conjugation is repeated several times, or many times actually in the text, your brain will start recognizing the patterns and you will learn all the patterns. So you will learn all the conjugations in a matter of days, and you'll be able to use them relatively well if you've done the recall part. If you just do it passively, it's not going to be as effective. Although if you listen to it for hours and hours and you read it over and over again, eventually you'll learn to use the grammar relatively well. But that's it. That's basically it. Example sentences with all the conjugations and lots of reviewing and active recall with it. Try to say correctly and check. Also, if you try to do this from scratch without knowing the verbs, it's going to be way more difficult. And also, if you don't know the vocab. So I highly recommend you memorize the infinitive form of the verb first with mnemonic associations. And if you want, also the vocab of the example sentences. Yeah, like líder, you know that one. But problema, you know that one. Músico, you know that one. But then there are some others that are very different in Spanish, and you probably won't be able to guess them correctly when you're trying to translate into Spanish. So if you memorize them with mnemonics, that's going to be useful. If you learn this way, you'll also learn vocabulary. So if you're learning, this is the beauty of learning with example sentences. Uh, Focused work, but using example sentences. You learn grammar as well while learning vocab, and you learn vocab as well when learning grammar. So if you learn 300 sentences focusing on conjugations, you learn quite a lot of vocab as well just by learning these sentences. And then when you learn in vocab lists, you will learn a lot of grammar just from the example sentences when you are reading and listening to, and then doing active recall with the example sentences of the vocab. So again, the best sentences you can learn are your language island sentences by far. Those will help you speak much sooner and much better. But example sentences for vocab and grammar are also a game changer if you want to get to a high level in the language, or if you want to get to a basic conversational level, but quickly. Anyway, that's all for today. See you later. By the way, what do you think of my new microphone? Sounding a little bit better, right? It finally arrived. I bought it like a month ago from a company in Madrid, and it was a big mistake. They kept, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but they just kept messaging me that they had problem after problem. They couldn't send it, whatever. And eventually, I just whatever, keep it. And I ordered it from Amazon, and in a couple of days, it was here. The same exact one. Cheaper also, and I mean, I try to buy local, but it's hard, man. It's hard to compete with big tech and Amazon, all those big corporations.